Today's episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast is brought to you by Baylor Scott & White Sports Performance Center, athletes made here. The Sports Performance Center was developed with one goal in mind: to maximize human performance through movement and recovery. Their team of expert performance sports coaches and trainers will guide you to achieve your performance goals. That's the Baylor Scott & White Sports Performance Center, located at the Star in Frisco. This episode is also brought to you by Allen Dental Studio. Located off Bethany Drive in Allen, their office was designed with you, the patient, in mind, which means an excellent and enjoyable experience. From cosmetics to implants, you deserve a perfect smile, and Allen Dental Studio can make that happen. Also, don't want to leave out another longtime friend of the podcast, TechSend Senior Residential Care Homes. With locations in Carrollton and Dallas, TechSend Senior Residential Care Homes offers an affordable, high-quality alternative to senior living. Call now at 469-400-7650. That's TechSend, spelled T-E-X-S-E-N, TechSend Senior Residential Care Homes. Welcome to another episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. My name is Matt Welch, being joined by Kendrick Johnson, Taylor Raglin, and Bryan Murphy. The high school football playoffs are here. We've got 11 weeks of this stuff out of the way to set the stage for for the real fun. Now the real good stuff begins as we embark on the first of 6 rounds of the postseason, and we'll see what happens, guys. It's been should be a fun little ride for our schools that are in fact playoff bound. So we're going to talk about just about all of them today. Try to give a kind of a look at what's in store for them early on in the playoffs. Maybe some storylines, I guess, region to region as far as who could be poised for a deep run and kind of where the strength in a certain region lies, because there's obviously no shortage of notable talking points because the high school football playoffs are here, and let's start in Class 6A, and we can since we've all had teams that made it out in District 9 6A, we can sorry Taylor, it was a rough year for Plano ISD. It was a rough year for Plano ISD.
Taylor called it. You the first person that told me, hey man, PSD might make history.
Plano was the only hope. At one point, I thought Plano might be the second best team in that district. And if the offense, I don't want to make excuses for PISD missing the playoffs. One of those 3 of the 4 biggest schools in the state should make the postseason every year.
Exactly.
But that Plano offense was clicking up until...
I saw it in person. They had 56 on playoff-bound McKinney.
A couple injuries, but still, you should figure it out.
I saw them at their peak.
So we can talk about those who are in fact bound for the playoffs, and that is not Plano ISD. So we have, as far as the matchups for the bi-district round between 9 6A and 10 6A, we have, let's see, it is in Division 1, you have Allen versus Sachse and Prosper versus Wiley, and then in Division 2, you have McKinney versus Naaman Forest and Jesuit versus Lakeview Centennial. So we'll focus on Allen and Sachse as well as Prosper and McKinney. Kendrick, McKinney is... got a chance at a little bit of history later this week in their first round matchup against Naaman Forest. And first off, just what a wild ride these last few years have been for the McKinney football team, just going right down to the wire. And once again, they needed a little bit of help from Prosper last Friday, and then a late field goal from Seth Cox to take down McKinney Boyd. So what are the vibes in McKinney right now after just another monumental win like that and another playoff berth under Marcus Shavers?
And the weird way they're used to this is the 3rd year in a row. If you take it back to Matt Gaddick and that crew's senior year, they had to they had to not lose by 8 points to Boyd, and they only lost by 4. They lost the game, they still got into the playoffs. And then last year they had to beat Boyd to get in when they could win. Boyd was already eliminated, and this year winner take all crosstown showdown. So this is par for the course for McKinney. But what's also been par for the course is first round disappointments. This year is going to be different for the simple fact, I remember last year when they got beat by Wiley, a game that they could have won, Coach Shavers like, we will be back. People are going to remember this McKinney crew. Basically, write it down. So 365 days later, he was pretty active. He was Shaver Dominus. So hopefully, for the Lions' sake.
Johnson Dominus, Murphy Dominus,
Shavers Dominus.
He basically... They stay with what they do. They have a power running game with 3 running backs. They have 2 receivers, Isaiah Rojas and Isaiah Wallace, the Isaiah brothers, and their defense has gotten better. That's been the key story. Like I was just telling Taylor, they gave 56 to Plano, and they gave 49 to Allen and 49 to Prosper in the first 3 games. You give 150 points in those first 3 district games, you ain't supposed to go to the playoffs. Fast forward to the last 4 games, they haven't given up more than 21, and they're giving up 16.2, and that's why they playing on Friday. So I think that same defensive mentality will carry over to our naming team, which I have nothing to go by because I saw them at the very beginning of the year.
They're a different team now.
So I don't know. So that team don't exist. So it's like I've seen them play, but I really haven't seen them play. So it's kind of like if you went to the Plano game against McKinney, you've seen them play, but you hadn't seen them play. That team won't be out there on Friday. So it'd be interesting. But if I was going to Vegas like I always do, I'll be going there the next week. I'll put my money on the Lions to end the drought and get the first win in 25 years. And the school's over 100 years old and they have not won a playoff game since 1984.
That's wild. So yeah, a chance for a long, playoff win drought to come to an end. So they get a name and forest team that is kind of like McKinney. They've kind of started to round into form later in the season.
From last year, they were 0-5 and had to win out to get in.
And they threw all sorts of chaos into the District 10 6A playoff situation by beating Lakeview Centennial, thus knocking Rowlett out of the mix the first time in like a decade and a half that Rowlett's missed the playoffs. So yeah, Name and Forest got a little bit of confidence coming in, but I don't know, just based on the way that these two districts played throughout the season, I think the expectation is that 9-6A should fare pretty well. A lot of these matchups line up well for them.
And another thing too, this particular crew, like last year, nobody, Shavers didn't have 6A coaching playoff experience here winning the lower level, but as you know, it's different. And none of those players had went to the playoffs, particularly because that Gadget crew was all seniors. So this whole team, a lot of them played last year, had that burn from that Wiley loss and want to get back here too. So that's an X factor that I think is going to be able to take Name and Forest down because they want that playoff win.
So. No, it's just kind of funny. Wiley and Sachse, they finished 6-1 in District 1 and 2, and then they get rewarded by So Sachse wins that, super, intense game in the, Rowlett going for 2. How did they do that? And then, that late touchdown, and then, they hang on to beat Rowlett, their biggest rival. Well, now you got to go play Allen. And Wiley, you go beat the brakes out of South Garland. You finish 6-1, district title, yada, yada, yada. And now you got to go play Prosper.
The joke was that for years the Rowlett-Sachse game would always be dubbed the Avoid Allen Bowl because the loser would end up getting sacrificed to Allen in the first round. But with Rowlett getting knocked out now, even though Sachse wins, that's who they draw. And for that matchup, I'm most likely going to be at that game Friday out at Eagle Stadium as Allen begins its playoff run against Sachse. I mean that's whether it was just the rivalry stakes of Sachse and Rowlett, but just that it was that close, 42-40, with Rowlett being down their starting quarterback Alex Rout, and that they were still able to make as much of a game out of it as they did was a little shocking at the at first glance. Obviously, Sachse got a huge game from Sean Coleman, who's really impressed this season. He had 179 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. He needed every last one of those points to avoid the upset against the Eagles. And then you have Allen, which Allen they're on the first off, it's kind of an aside. They're on the cusp of some more notable statewide history. So Allen just polished off another 10-0 regular season. It's been from 2013 on. They've gone undefeated in the regular season. They've now won 75 consecutive regular season games.
The record's 82 or 83.
By who?
It was
Galena Park North Shore. Shout out to the North Shore. My father-in-law coached that team, so I know Galena Park North Shore is that regular season.
It's according to LoneStarGridiron.com. It's actually 78, and it is North Shore that holds that from 01 to 09 when they won 78 consecutive regular season games. So Allen has a chance to break that record next season. But I was going through just to kind of see, okay, what has Allen's average margin of victory been throughout that span? Because Allen is, they'll blow out opponents on the regular. It was 31.7. And that's where you look at this particular team, though, the margin of victory is the lowest during that span. It's only 23 points per game. So you'd have a lot of results when. I know. Again, you're being
comparing them to themselves.
You're being compared to some of the the better teams that the Dallas area has ever seen.
Taylor was talking about it the other day. It's like this. I mean, Allen. Obviously, they're 10-0. They're elite, state ranked. But are they Allen?
They're not Allen good. They're not Allen good.
Are they Allen from the last couple of years? Are they able to make a run at state?
No.
One could say this has been the toughest regular season schedule that they've played, because when you look at earlier in the year when they did take on Dickinson and Cedar Hill, two teams that those wins continue to look nice. They're both ranked in the top 16 in the state. They both beat them by double digits.
But they had those concerning games against like Coppell, who's really down this
year. They were down there.
I
mean, they were banged up that game and didn't have Raglin Sharp. Yeah, so that's in that. But
my whole thing is they're going to have to beat Duncan. They're going to have to go through Duncanville to get the North Shore. So if they somehow beat Duncanville, they can't do that 2 weeks in a row. There's no team in the state that can beat those two teams back-to-back weeks.
Well, those teams got to make it there first, and so does Allen for that matter. Because when you look at the brackets, like. Listen, Allen is expected to take care of Sachse. We're all in agreement on that.
I didn't think that game's on the picket line this week.
It wasn't.
I've had my Sachse sources tell me, I'll leave them anonymous, that if we're going to go out, we're still going to try and go out swinging.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to see if it's a kitchen sink performance by Sachse. But nevertheless, though, so if Allen is able to get by Sachse, then there's a chance they could draw a rematch with Rockwall in the second round, and I think that's the one that at least when you look at the rest of that Region II bracket, that's a matchup that immediately jumps out as like, okay, that's because it was a great game last year. And Allen won 52-41.
I don't think there's any question Allen.
I don't think Allen's got that firepower to put up that point.
That's the thing, yeah. It's going to be about whether or not their defense, which has been great. Their defense has only allowed 17 total points these last 3 games.
Who's that DN again?
Elijah Fisher.
Man, the man's a beast. Shout out to him. I very rarely get impressed like off of one performance like some other people. That guy's a monster. The guy's a monster.
Day, man.
The guy's a monster. Props to him.
So yeah, I mean, let's say again, if these two teams advance, we can talk a little bit more of it in detail next week. But Allen Rockwall, I mean, the same problems that exist in that matchup are still there with Rockwall and that high-powered offense.
Dude,
and
arguing with picking Rockwall.
That was a before the season started, there were some outlets that was a trendy upset pick as far as like, okay, keep an eye on Rockwall. They might actually be the best team to come out of that region. And then you look what happened with their season with they had the close loss early on to Highland Park, and then the Longview game, which was again so weird because Jackson Smith and Jigby gets hurt in the first series or whatnot.
That took their spirit thing.
Oh yeah, and they lost like 49-3 or whatever it was. And so that's, I don't know, if those two teams were to play this Friday, you probably get a much different outcome in those games. But we can talk about that one later on. But that's obviously the Allen fans are well aware of what Rockwall brings to the table and should be very, very much on high alert because that's a game with there's definitely some Rockwall's not gonna. That is not going to be an easy one for Allen for sure. But then you look elsewhere in the region and you have like Klein Oak, who would then potentially be a potential third round matchup for either of those two teams. And then you have the bottom half, which now Prosper has been thrust into, and Prosper's outlook, everything changed in that one night last Friday. It was looking like for all season long they were going to be D2 once again. The question was, would they wind up on the same side as Longview and then get fed to them in the second round like last season? Well, by virtue of Plano getting knocked out last Friday, Prosper now gets bumped up to D1, so their entire landscape has changed. So you wonder now, kind of what this means for Prosper as far as if this is, potentially they might be able to get on a little bit of a roll here now. If they are able to kind of look like basically if they can look like the team that didn't play Allen or Jesuit when they weren't exactly competitive in either of those games. They were incredible on Friday. They did not give Plano even a prayer of making that a game. They had 34 points in the second quarter. They had 6 scoring possessions in the second quarter alone. You got to try to get 6 scoring drives in a single quarter. They scored on 10 consecutive drives overall. Their defense was lights out. They're so aggressive.
They'll never admit it, but that was a conversation prior to the game. Like, you go out and beat Plano, you don't have to see them, and that was in the back of everybody's minds, and it should have been.
Yeah,
it should have been.
Because there was at least a scenario in play where if they had lost to Plano, and then I believe if Plano East would have beaten Jesuit, then Prosper would have wound up getting the high seed in the D2 bracket, and that means you get Longview in the second round, which is a fate that nobody wants in the 6A D2 bracket.
Who in the high seed?
Jesuit.
Jesuit.
Yeah, Jesuit.
Good luck with all that. Yep. Jesuit may not get that first round.
Yeah, they're missing EJ Smith right now, and that's no small absence. But then with Prosper, though, you look at now what's in store for them is they get Wiley. A Wiley team that they split the district title.
Are they playing at Wiley?
Yes, it is at Wiley ISD Stadium.
Prosper's playing at Wiley?
No, it's it's Wiley.
That game's gonna be a lot closer than what you think. That team plays ridiculously well at that stadium. You haven't been to Pirate Stadium, Camo.
I hate that ammo.
The ammo.
I didn't say I liked it at all.
I don't get it.
That's a no comment, but no, I feel your sentiment on that.
That's weird.
So yeah, I mean, just you look at the rest of the bracket, and it seems that if Prosper is able to get past Wiley, that there is at least a path there where they can maybe be around for a little bit. Again, you avoid the strength in that region is in the top half with Allen, Rockwall, and Klein Oak. Elsewhere you look and you have Mesquite. Fair play to Mesquite, who I mean, when you learn that Mesquite was the third best team in that district after watching them in person just get mauled by Mesquite Horn back early on in the district schedule, they lost 35-14. They were held under, I think their quarterback, Dylan, McGill, whatnot. He completed like 30% of his passes. They just had such a tough time handling that Horn defense, and then for them to turn around and bounce back the way that they have with getting the requisite wins over Tyler Lee, a dramatic game with they needed a very a late rally to get by in that one. Then they beat Rockwall Heath and North Mesquite. What happened against Longview and Rockwall is what's expected to happen against those two, but then for them to come out on the other end as the as the third best team in that district is an impressive turnaround for Jeff Leaner and his crew, and a lot of it's just thanks to that run game. I mean, their top 5 rushers are all averaging more than 7 yards per carry, and that's some pretty nice depth to have there in the backfield, obviously led by Ladarius Turner. But yeah, they get Colleen Shoemaker to start. The winner of that game will draw the winner of Wiley and Prosper, and then from there it's the Woodlands and Cypress Woods teams that aren't really much in our coverage area.
I was going to ask, who do y'all think is that best team in that little bracket right there through the first 3 rounds? Is it Prosper? Is it?
I don't.
Is it Shoemaker?
I mean, again,
I think there's no clear lead horse in that side of things. I mean, I could see it going any number of ways, but there's no Allen or what I mean. There's no there's your.
We're just not close enough to those teams in the bottom quarter with the Cy Woods and the Springs and the Woodlands and the likes. I mean, I know the Woodlands is usually good every year,
but none of us have ever traditionally have not made a run.
Yeah.
The Woodlands will get there, but they won't get the job done.
Yeah, usually the Woodlands.
This ain't baseball.
Yeah.
There was the year when the Woodlands knocked off Allen in the state semis, and
that'd be by North Shore.
Yeah, and it was Lake Travis, I think, that year that got them. Yeah, they got hammered by that Lake Travis team. So yeah, it's not out of the question though that a team like a Prosper or a Mesquite might be able to potentially get a few rounds deep in this thing.
You the Prosper first. What's your take, bro?
They're the best team in that. No, I'm just kidding. We've seen them. They've been too Jekyll and Hyde this year. We've seen what they are against.
So you ain't putting your money on them?
No, I'm not putting my money on any of them. No, I mean, we've seen what they are against the really good teams, and we've seen what they are against the bad teams, so to speak, in 9-6A. And it's like, well, who's going to show up when you start playing these good teams? Yeah, you're not having to face Allen or Longview or teams like that. But we saw what happened against Jesuit, and you're going to be playing teams.
There's a very clear line of demarcation on how they fared against the winning teams in that district and the teams that were on the mid to lower tiers in that district, and they blew out all of them in victory. But then they got throttled in those 2 losses.
Yeah,
so
they're not going to be playing Plano East, Plano West. They're not playing McKinney Boyd. No offense, Kendrick. They're playing.
Right, yeah, that's me. You didn't give Red Nation a shout out, not Kendrick.
Sorry, McKinney Boyd. I shouldn't have brought y'all up. No, but they should beat Wiley. But after that, with that Shoemaker, Mesquite, whoever they play there, that's going to be tough. And then I don't know. I don't know what to expect from Prosper. I do expect them to beat Wiley, by a couple scores. That is what should happen. But yeah, from there on, I mean, who knows? You never know what you're going to get with Prosper. Right?
You think it's going to be a 9-6-8 sweep?
I do. I
yeah,
think so.
yeah.
The only one that's, McKinney and Naaman is. That was tough. That was tough for me.
McKinney's on a mission, bro.
Who I picked, but
McKinney, I think, is at
put him on the picket
line. At least 2 scores better.
But I just
than
can't trust
Naaman.
Naaman.
Put him on the picket line.
Something weird could happen, but I think McKinney is at least 2 scores better than that team. That district, 10-6A is just no good.
There was a lot of parity, but again, it might be the kind of parity that might not necessarily translate to the playoffs.
Yeah.
In a weird way, that parity helps a team like McKinney because they ain't seen an Allen, they ain't seen a Prosper, they ain't seen a Jesuit. So there's nothing they hadn't seen before. And Coach Abrams and them, I have 100% confidence that they're going to have those boys ready to play. I said, this guy's been on a mission to get back to this stage and right the wrong, as they said, from last year. And
then you've got over in District 6-6A with the qualifiers from, it was a Lewisville ISD sweep. Flower Mound, Hebron, Lewisville, and Marcus all made it. And let's see, as far as what's in store, it's basically a case of where if you got one of the low seeds, then you're drawing an absolute juggernaut. With all apologies to Lewisville and Hebron, they've got a couple tall orders on deck on Friday. So you have Lewisville draws South Lake Carroll.
Good luck with all that. And I lost since 2016 at home, and they're playing them at Dragon Stadium.
There you go.
Good luck with all that.
A little fun fact on South Lake Carroll.
Lewisville, the great team. I mean, they've come so long, so far. That offense.
Oh, they're back, man. Yeah, they're back.
South Lake is just.
What place is the quarterback in?
Taylor Green is a junior.
Yeah, he's legit. He had 24 touchdowns and he counted for 36.
They're legit,
and he ran for 12.
They're great, but you just don't, like you said, you don't go into Dragon Stadium, and I don't think, and
not in the playoffs. Predict a tradition.
And that's a Southlake team that is just on such a roll right now. They had that big statement win against Denton Guy earlier in district. They've got one of the top quarterbacks in the entire country in Quinn Ewers there. I mean, that's a program that is expected to hang around for 3-4 rounds potentially, and it's just going to be a tall order. I mean, Lewisville's defense has been up to the task. They've shown well against the likes of Marcus and Flower Mound and whatnot, but just Southlake is just on a completely different tier.
Yeah, but the last 2 weeks they've been struggling. They had a game with 38 to Hebron and 49 to 5.
Yeah,
Marcus.
The Hebron game was, man,
they got took to the woodshed.
That threw us all off. Taylor was firmly in Hebron's corner, and he was the only one on the pick line that took Hebron.
If I knew they were playing at the woodshed, I would have. I didn't do my research correctly.
You know how many times Hebron lost at home this year?
Hey, but
never.
What's Devin at when you need him? Devin don't believe in that.
But it ain't happening now. So sorry. that game. I mean, to get into Hebron Guyer, I think it has a chance. In 2015, I went back and looked at that one. I mean, that game, Hebron was up at half, 13-6. I mean, two completely different programs this year. But some history there. Good game, and I think that one has a puncher's chance at being competitive for a little bit at least, but I think Guyer in the end just going to have too much. That one loss the Guyer has by 10 to Southlake or whatever it was. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough draw. It's basically your quintessential great defense versus great offense matchup, because that Guyer running game is about as efficient as it gets in the Metroplex. Not just with Kendrick Cobbs, who I think he ended up leading 6A, at least within the Dallas area in rushing.
Here's another stat: Cobbs, Manny Fincher, and Frazier and the North crew and Play White were all on the same middle school team. So that team, that middle school team, had the leading rusher in 6A and leading rusher in 5A in the area. That is absurd.
Where was that middle school at?
Cockrell. Yeah. Cockrell Middle School.
I believe Cobbs initially transferred from Melissa to Denton Guyer.
His dad's a coach. Yeah, but that's how much talent on that team. They had the leading 6A rusher and the leading 5A rusher on the same squad.
And I know we're still only talking first round, but Guyer and Cedar Hill in the second round, and then Carroll, Southlake against DeSoto in the second round also.
Whoa, second round.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive matchups there on paper. With because it's not just Kendrick Cobbs left to worry about, but Eli Stowers, their dual threat quarterback. He's one of the.
I saw him as a sophomore.
Oh yeah, he's one of the best in the area.
He's pretty good. Yeah, he's a little lefty. Got the little lefty.
That Guyer offense they can hurt you all over the place. But Hebron's defense has been, for the most part, up to the challenge this season, even when pressed against upper echelon competition. You think of that game that they had earlier in the year against Arlington Martin, which Martin just breezed through the regular season, it feels like. And Hebron held them to negative yardage in the first half. That defense can dial it up against a high-powered group when called upon, so you know that they're going to at least have they'll be ready for what Guyer throws, but Guyer just has that's just a lot of firepower.
Darius Snow on that D.
Yeah, Darius Snow, Carter Norrie, Ben Rutherford. They've got there's a lot of horses on that Hebron defense. Very experienced group that's really shown out as being one of the better defenses in all of 6A. You have that matchup again. Lewisville and Southlake Carroll. We'll see what's there. But then you have Flower Mound, and Flower Mound squares off against Keller in the first round. A chance for Flower Mound to get its first playoff win ever. I did not know that heading into this. That Flower Mound had never won a playoff game.
That was a big message earlier this season. Was because obviously the district title last year and all the success and how good they were. But
then they ran into Guyer in the first round.
And that's a tough matchup, but still nothing really to show for it. You want that gold football you want to be champions of something, even if it's just by district. You want that first step, and I think they'll get it this year.
That would be a notable milestone for sure.
I hope that's their goal, because they win that game, they play Duncanville. So
good luck with that. Who plays Duncanville? Flower Mound.
Flower Mound. Yeah, they beat Keller.
If they win the first round. So with Flower Mound, Flower Mound and Keller is going to basically be another matchup of dynamic offense versus a real stingy defense. That Keller group has only allowed, I think, around 20 points per game this season. And with Flower Mound, we all know what we get with that Flower Mound offense with Blake Short and Pierce Hudgens. They've got 4 receivers with at least 32 receptions, led by Reed Touchstone. Ironically enough, Touchstone finished the regular season as one of the top big play receivers in all of the 6A Metroplex. Among the top 25 receivers in the area for 6A at least, he was 5th in yards per catch, 20.4. I don't know. I think we're all in concert though in thinking that Flower Mound is able to get past that first round hex.
history.
Yeah. So that'll be a nice opportunity for them on Friday as they get to host Keller, and then you have Marcus, which, man, Marcus just
they get better each week. I saw them play against Boyd earlier this year, and you could tell they had that oomph. And then Nussmeier, evidently he's that guy he's a legit D1er. He has.
Oh yeah, he absolutely is. That's one of the reasons why there was so much optimism about that passing game this year. For years, it's just been the run game and Justin Dinka and all those great running backs that Marcus has had. And this is one of the first times in some time that they've had a guy that can legit, go for, like 3,000 yards passing and whatnot. Yeah. And you see what it's translated to. They've won 9 straight. They lost their season opener at Arlington Bowie. I was actually at that game, and they've just won everything since. But man, they have it's a team that is. I hate to, to pull an entry out of the sports cliche Rolodex. They find ways to win. Yeah. Because you look at how close their games have been against the rest of Lewisville ISD and Capel. In those between those 4 opponents, those 4 opponents, their average margin of victory was 6.8 points.
Hey.
I mean, it's crazy because they beat Hebron by 10, they beat Capel by 8 in overtime, they beat Flower Mound by 3, and then they just beat Lewisville by 6 in overtime. So
that's the good. We talk about 10-6A though and kind of bad parity. That's the good parity. They all count the same.
Yeah.
If you're Marcus, that's your kind of mantra for winning that district title. They all count, and those are good programs.
Yeah.
Especially, you look at the Flower Mound win by 3 points, whatever. That game is just a freaking crapshoot every season. If you win that game, that's all that matters. Just full stop. You won the Mound Showdown. Who cares how you did it? That game is nuts. And then same thing with, those are some really, Hebron and Lewisville especially, really good programs this year. So, no flukes, I don't think. All close, but no flukes.
It's certainly, and I think after a while, it just kind of becomes part of your identity, and you develop that confidence in those close situations. You're not ever fazed by anything, and you just kind of almost expect to do it. And we'll see. If it was more of this is the thing about the playoffs is you now get a little bit of we know what they look like within the confines of 6A, but when you go up against a completely different district, what does it all mean? So are they going to go out there on Friday and are they going to beat Keller Central by 17, 21 points, or is it going to be another just down to the wire close call? Anxious to see. But yes, that's who Marcus draws in the first round. They get Keller Central at home on Friday. And let's see, is that have we touched on everybody in 6A?
Yes, sir.
Have we?
Sounds like it.
Let's see. All right, so we got plenty of stuff then on the other end for 5A, be it Division I or Division II. Talk a little Frisco ISD, little the Colony, McKinney North, all that good stuff. And we can get to that after a word from this sponsor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Star Local Media. 14 newspapers and websites with a print distribution of 270,000 homes and monthly page views of 600,000 online. Star Local Media, your community voice for news. And now, let's get back to the podcast. And we are back as we continue to preview the high school football playoffs. We have talked some 6A, a little bit of what's going on in Division I and Division II, so let's now transition to 5A. About the same thing. Let's start over in Division I because I think there's plenty of fun angles to take. If you look at the 5A Division I Region II bracket, which is where all of our local playoff qualifiers emerge from, you have the number 1 ranked team in all of the state. Brian, we can start right there. We can stop at the tippy top of the state rankings. Frisco Lone Star, first time ever that they are entering the postseason with this sort of basically a state championship or bust expectation. Would you say?
Yeah, first time ever being 10-0.
Because they've been to the state finals before, but it was
in 2015.
Yeah.
And,
they were never doing so as the number 1 team in the state.
My question for you: are you putting money on them to get the job done?
Yeah. I know I said in the first segment I'm not putting my money on anyone, but if I did, it would be Lone Star. And that is, knowing who they would play in the third round, potentially, most likely, if everything is taken care of, business is taken care of by both sides. And I'm talking about Highland Park. It's been the murmur all season long since they played Highland Park in week 3 that they could match up in the third or fourth round. Well, based off how things went, no surprise, Highland Park won their district, Lone Star won their district, and that third round meeting is looming. But they got to beat Mansfield Legacy, a team that I feel like they play every year in the playoffs. Lone Star does. They play.
But they're down. Huh?
They are. And
I got inside sources on that program.
Yeah, they are down. I mean, they only won like 4 games this year, and they just got absolutely slaughtered by Lancaster and Highland Park when they played them. So they're not the same Legacy team. They don't have that Jalen Catalon kid.
Shout out to Kevin Pryor, my source.
So give up your sources. That was one of the
Leave them anonymous. So they play the Legacy. They should beat them pretty good. I'll just leave it at that. And then second round, they'd have to face a College Station or John Tyler, a John Tyler team that's only won 3 games this year. College Station, they're not the same College Station
that won
state a couple years ago. So,
out the blue.
Yeah, literally.
They hadn't won more than they hadn't won like 10 games in the program's history, and you go from that to winning state. I don't know. That's the most absurd run ever.
Man, an absurd run is Lone Star, man, going 10-0, beating Highland Park, and then surviving.
Can you do it again twice?
Yeah, because here's no. Let's look at what it might take. Like, and this is assuming again, because you see upsets all the time in the playoffs. So this is not to say this is exactly what the road's going to look like, but it is at least in play that they could very well have to see 4 consecutive opponents ranked in the state's top 5, and Lone Star being one of those teams, it means that you would see, again, 2 through 5 at some various junctures. So you could get a scenario in play where they play Highland Park in the 3rd round. And then in the 4th round, you might see number 5 ranked Lufkin.
Or Lancaster.
Or the Colony.
That would be so much fun. That'd be the most fun playoff.
We'll look at that scoring machine.
And then if you get out of Region 2 unscathed, you could very well draw Denton Ryan, ranked number 3, out of Region 1, and then if you get past that and get to the state championship game, you could conceivably wind up playing number 2 ranked Shadow Creek. So if Lone Star is going to win their first ever state championship,
ain't gonna be no fluke.
There is, they will. And then, listen, they're probably, I don't know if they would have to end up playing those teams in that exact order. One of them might get upset along the way, but they're gonna see some of them at least.
That almost sounds like Boyd's in baseball run when they had to do all that just to get the state.
Yeah, so it will be a very well-deserved state championship if they are in fact able to accomplish that.
Obviously, what worries me is the rematch with Highland Park, because it's like, are you going to beat Highland Park twice
Negative.
in 1 year? And I know you've been saying that all season, and I'm worried about that too. You know, Highland Park and Randy Allen and those guys, they're gonna come out looking very different than they did 2 months ago.
And the things people forget, they're 3-time defending state champion.
Oh yeah,
and nobody's really talking about that.
They take it up another notch, and they just came off a 9-1 season, just a nonchalant, quiet 9-1 year, beating Lancaster in overtime in district play. Oh, that's just expected, with Highland Park, but. Lufkin or Lancaster, they are capable of beating a Lone Star, but I'm not worried about them. Then I'm worried about Denton Ryan. Denton Ryan, man, they got the horses. They got
an easy route, it seemed like, too, from what I glanced at.
Yeah,
out of all those teams, Denton Ryan's got the easiest route out of the top 5 teams. If Denton Ryan's
not there in that 4th round, then or the 5th round, I should say.
Something really crazy happened.
Something very crazy happened. And that worries me, that semifinal game against Denton Ryan, most likely at AT&T.
Drew Sanders.
Drew, man, they just have so many guys there that they can go toe to toe with Lone Star.
Is that Spencer's brother?
I don't think so.
It's just
no.
Okay, because Spencer Sanders was phenomenal.
It's not,
Oklahoma State.
Drew Sanders used to be at Lake Dallas.
He did.
Thinking of what could have been, He went from Lake Dallas to Colleyville Heritage, and now he's at Denton Ryan.
His dad must be a coach.
Yeah, his dad is a coach, So I mean, if Lone Star gets out of this thing, then it's going to come they're going to meet plenty of resistance along the way. But hey, so far they've passed every test. Even the stiffest of ones during the regular season against the Colony, which this is as far as just kind of power ranking the matchups in the first round in our coverage area. The Colony against Lancaster is one that I think is got a chance to be a pretty fun game.
I got 9 D1ers on the field. So yeah.
Is that our best 5A matchup?
Oh, but
I think so.
That may be the best 5A matchup in the state.
Yeah.
Because when you factor in the Colony and just the what that offense is capable of with all of that Division I talent, the Miles Prices, Christian Gonzalez, Keith Miller, and then of course Mikey Harrington running the show at quarterback, and just the how creative they can get, the job that they did rising to the occasion against Lone Star, albeit with a bunch of just trickery and whatnot. It was a complete kitchen sink performance, but it almost worked.
And you know how good Lone Star is, though. Literally, the Colony with those guys tried out everything. So many fake punts, onside kicks.
Oh yeah.
All sorts of trick plays. Literally, Rangel pulled out all the stops.
And Lone Star played poorly.
Yes, and
Like,
it was at the Colony, which is a tough place to
quote
play.
unquote poorly.
And Lone Star,
but
on their standards. Yeah,
Yeah.
It shows that it's gonna take a pretty impressive performance for someone to take down this Lone Star.
It's
team.
almost Lone Star has like that Allen feel, maybe not this year, but that Allen feel of like you have to be perfect. Like you just do. Like you have to be perfect. You can't make any mistakes, and then you still might not beat them, but that's your opportunity.
Are we going to sleep on Independence though?
Yeah.
In that same bracket?
Yeah. Like you talk about teams that used to taking
They
it
beat
up,
the Colony.
but like I said, you talk about teams that used to bring. They have no history of doing that, or as my man Matt would like to say, punching above their weight. They're going to punch above their weight after the second round.
They've made the playoffs now 3 times in 5 or 6 seasons as a program.
How they punched above their weight though?
Well, they've had to play Highland Park in the first round both times, and that's way above their weight. But they're not way above.
That's a featherweight going against a super heavyweight.
They're playing Mansfield Timberview in the first round. They're not the same Mansfield Timberview team
They'll
that we've seen.
win. I said they're going to be one and done. I'm just saying that can they punch above their weight?
Well, if they're able to get out of the first round, they'll probably get a chance to in the second round because they're going to draw number 5 ranked Lufkin most
No,
likely.
they don't go to East Texas. I know. Our man Devin Hatchett don't believe in geography, but geography gonna make a big deal.
It'll be a Mesquite.
Devin doesn't believe in
Memorial and get that spread.
I think that broad claim. Devin doesn't believe in geography. he's not even here to defend himself. Devin's sick right now.
What you said? What's that mean?
Maps don't mean anything to Devin.
For instance, like you said, if they played in Mesquite. Your Frisco team has a better chance of winning versus they play out there in the 903 in the Piney Woods. They don't want that. They don't want exactly. Look at your body language. It means a difference. These are high school kids at the end of the day. Geography means a big deal.
What kind of shot do y'all give the Colony against Lancaster?
I'm gonna call it in that second round. Right, guy, I got you winning because I know he's gonna hit me up. I got you winning this week, and I got you losing next week.
I guess I got like percentage-wise, maybe 60-40 for Lancaster. I'd say. I don't know.
I've had a coach.
Oh, come on, this week?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I got the win this week. I got you winning this week, man.
So you have the Colony beating Lancaster.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna put it on the pick.
I've had a source tell me that is very familiar with all these teams, saying the one team that he's worried about for Lone Star having to face is Lancaster.
A lot of people talking
I'm
about
just gonna leave that there.
Because that's the thing, like them and the Colony have pretty similar offenses just in terms of their output. They're both averaging over 400 yards and over 43 points per game. Just the thing is that Lancaster's defense has just been on another level. I mean, they're number 2 in the area in points allowed per game, just 13.7. And this is in the same district as Highland Park, who they took to overtime.
Here we segue. That's why I think Rangel and them gonna pull it off just off a good feeling. But it would be funny to see North and Lancaster go at it. You see the greatest show in high school turf this year was that defense go at it.
Because the winner of Lancaster and the Colony will draw the winner of McKinney North and Magnolia West. Which
North's offense is scary, man.
Yeah, you finally you saw him. Yeah, you saw him. You've seen him all year. So
He told Devin I'm not over.
The first thing that Fetchy said after the game, head coach Mike Fetchy, not the younger Fetchy, was that they don't feel like they peaked offensively at all, And I'm like, you put up 63 or whatever it was, but that's their genuine feeling is that they probably feel like they should score 80.
It's not coaches talk because what he's talking about is for somebody who's seen them play like 5 times, they'll have a half, they'll score 42 in the half, and the next half they'll have like 14. They haven't had that 42 just popping in the back. That's what they're talking about.
They should go put 80 up on anybody every time out. I mean, that's not realistic, but that's probably what they feel like when just with the weapons they have, and it's just clinical.
And what's going to happen in the playoffs, what I want to see is they do what they do, even with their defense. Props to Coach Brandon Villarreal, and the defense coordinator. They've gotten better. They found a way to shut down these teams once they figure them out. Like it was 21-21 last week, and then next thing you know, it's 63-21.
No Seth McGowan, but still.
But then the week before, the game before, they had John Tyler. It was like 21-19, and they ended up pulling that off.
On Max Preps on McKinney North's page, they have them obviously playing Magnolia West on the 15th. They already have it pulled up for November 22nd at Lancaster.
Disrespect to the Colony from Max Preps.
But
just saying.
Here's some numbers. I know y'all numbers guys. Dylan Markowitz is thrown for 3,476 yards, 38 touchdowns, 3 picks. That's regular season.
Is that good?
That's regular season.
Frazier's unreal too. I mean, that was my biggest takeaway. I think from seeing them is that dude. I mean, it's just automatic. It seems like if he's you just gotta go over the middle, and it's like, what do you do? If there's 6'7", what do you do? What do you do with him?
but here's the third option. They have a 1,000-yard receiver, J.J. Henry got 1,212 yards, 14 tubs. Then you got Noah Ford, 802. 9 tubs. Then Frazier with 726, 7 tubs, and then you got Sean Mansour with 604 and 7
Frazier's
tubs.
just like,
so you got 4 people with 600.
Wow.
3rd and 7. What do you do?
We already talked about Mr. Fincher.
Yeah.
He leads the area in rushing. 1,620 tubs.
So yeah,
What you gonna do when that North offense runs wild on you?
Yeah, that's Wakeland.
All right, Hulk Hogan. So yeah, I mean that's it. But yeah, I mean, listen, if the Colony is able to pull that upset on Lancaster, just how exciting would that game between the Colony and McKinney North be? What would the betting line, just the over under be on that?
Oh, total?
Oh yeah.
Total? I give it 98.
Goodness.
I'll take the over.
Oh yeah, you start that around like 110 for sure, man.
But so yeah, I mean, I don't know, Kendrick. Ultimately, like, what do you foresee McKinney North with just this hallmark season of theirs, their first ever outright district championship? What do you feel like it's going to translate to in the playoffs? Because they should defeat Magnolia West, but after that, it's the going's going to get pretty tough.
This group knows how to win. They've been winning, like we were talking about. They had so much talent that they got people at other D1 at other schools that are going D1 and leading the area in rushing when they all were middle schoolers. This group has been built for this, and they're just special. I know on paper people pick Lancaster and they match up with the Colony because they're familiar, as Brian knows, from being district last realignment. They were in the same district. But this particular team, it's easy. It's like they say, it's easy from the outside looking in. When you go in that field, it's a whole different thing. I'm pretty sure Poteet thought they were going to run with them, and they caught that smoke in that second half.
Would you favor them over a Lancaster if they were to meet in the second round?
I pick them because I know them. They won't be favored on paper, but because their defense is underrated. But I don't see anybody that can beat them in a shootout at this stage of the season. The only team that beat them in a shootout in the regular season was Wakeland, and they made 2 turnovers and still put up 49 points.
Well, the defense has figured out what we've talked about with North all season. Like, you just got to give up like 30 and you're fine. Like, you give up less than 35, you're going to win the football game. I mean, they've definitely figured that out. And like I said, caveat of Poteet didn't have Seth McGowan, but still, I mean, Poteet wasn't scoring 65 on North last week either. So, I mean.
But it does help in the respect that perhaps they're able to control the clock a little bit better with McGowan and perhaps impose that kind of the kind of imprint that you kind of need in order to keep that North offense off the field. So it does matter in that respect.
It's going to take up offensive offense, but the reason I think the Colony is going to beat Lancaster is Lancaster, other than the Highland Park game, I won't call them front runners, but they used to be in the head. You get one of the Colony or these.
They started the season against Duncanville. I mean, they lost to Duncanville, but they've played. Duncanville, Highland Park, they've beaten the brakes out of everyone else. Granted, it's against like Adams and Samuel and stuff like that.
Exactly what I'm saying. Those teams, though, like North and the Colony, they come out and hit you with 14 points. You pressing because you down because you know they ain't gonna lay off the gas. They haven't seen that yet, really. And won.
That was the
They've
problem.
seen it, but I'm talking about they haven't.
Overtime game against Highland Park. Highland Park was up 14-0 in the first quarter of that game.
Highland Park and McKinney North, 2019.
Highland Park is better than McKinney North.
Okay, we'll see.
Hot take.
Those numbers don't lie.
All right, so let's see. 5A Division II. Let's talk a little 5A Division II, folks.
The one team I cover.
7-5A Division II. I mean, it was an absolute photo finish, for the. It was, between Lovejoy and Frisco and Braswell and Reedy, which
who won the
Frisco.
Frisco won it. Yeah, Frisco won it. So
Reedy snuck in.
Reedy wound up sticking in. They what had to happen, as they were the biggest Denton Braswell fans in the state last week as they took care of Denison and
they did the name it for us, so 7-5A.
Who, Reedy?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So yeah, I guess what kind of expectations do we have now for District 7-5A Division II?
It's a bummer for Lovejoy because I don't know the thing that's going to define how they perform, because I think Roy City and Lovejoy are, pretty similar. You look at Lovejoy beat Sulphur Springs by a score, but that's not the same Lovejoy team, later in the season. Roy City, I think, beat them by like 30. Lovejoy probably would have done similar, had they played later on, because Lovejoy's offense really got clicking, and Lovejoy, I thought was pretty underrated in district all season, and then Rucker gets hurt, and I didn't know if he was going to play last week. I didn't know he'd be out. It's kind of a bummer for Lovejoy with that, Frisco game ending up the way it did because they didn't have, obviously their best athlete running the offense. Maybe not their best athlete, but the best quarterback bar none and a tremendous athlete. And that's
their most important play.
That's going to be the story this week too. If Rutgers good to go, I think they probably beat Roy City. If he's not, then nothing against Noah Nadeau, and they still have the capability of scoring points, and that might be good enough to beat Roy City with a good defensive performance, but it's going to hinge, I think, on whether RW can go or not. So we'll see.
The first round matchups, you have Lovejoy against Roy City, you have Braswell against Corsicana, Frisco against Greenville, and then Ennis versus Reedy. So yeah, I don't know, Brian. I mean, with Frisco accomplishing what it did, you got to see them polish off a district championship last week as they now very much like McKinney North, a team that had one of its better regular seasons in a long time. So, how do you foresee this translating to the playoffs? Because I look across this region, and obviously everything still runs through Aledo just like it did last year. But outside of that,
it worries me because Frisco, they won their first round game last year convincingly, and then they had to play South Oak Cliff. And I was at that game at the Star, and South Oak Cliff was just a different animal. They were just the better team, and they beat Frisco pretty good. Frisco is better than they were last year, but they'd also have to play most likely South Oak Cliff again in that second round, and that is what worries me. And then I don't know what to make of Reedy and Ennis, because Reedy, I mean, they're obviously not what they were last year. Ennis, won that district. They should be the favorites. Reedy just barely snuck in. One could say that Denison really should have made the playoffs over Reedy. No offense, Coach.
Shouldn't have lost him head-to-head.
Exactly, and that's what ultimately did them.
They lost the one that mattered.
I mean, Reedy went into
Denison and beat
them
35-32. They hung on and beat them. So they earned the playoff spot. But Dennis was really deserving too. They beat Frisco, and they're the only team to beat Frisco in the district. But I don't know. If Reedy goes out and just gives it to Ennis, I won't be surprised. If Ennis goes out there and gives it to Reedy pretty good, I won't be surprised.
I think there's some upset potential in this one. Ennis is 9-1, all fine and well. They went undefeated in district, but the results have been a little bit up and down. Even just last week against Greenville, who was the number 4 seed out of that district, they won 32-25. They had to come back though from a 25-7 deficit.
You look at Reedy too, though; they got results like that. I mean, Reedy had some scares.
Are you going to get the Reedy?
But against teams that went on to win, like against Frisco and against.
Are you going to get the Reedy first half against Frisco, or are you going to get that second half against Frisco that really was the much better team? They just couldn't overcome their first half blunders,
I ran this through one of those little simulators or whatnot. Like, what would you on a neutral field? What would one team be favored over by the other? Ennis would only be a 5-point favorite on a neutral field against Reedy.
That sounds about right.
Which for a district champion against a 4 seed, I don't know. I kind of expect to be maybe a little bit higher than that. But that just kind of speaks that Reedy has, they've shown the ability to press some of the more upper echelon teams in that district, with the exception of Braswell. Braswell just beat the tar out of them.
Speaking of them, I can see them making a run, and we talked about it earlier.
Inexperienced.
I don't know, man. They're
really good.
There's a chance that
second round,
because they announced their presence to the rest of the area early on with a win over Red Oak. Red Oak is currently ranked number 7 in the state, and if Braswell's able to get past Corsicana, they could very well rematch Red Oak in the second round. So funny, a nice little chance to kind of come full circle in that one. But yeah, Braswell is, you could argue maybe as far as which teams look the best right now out of 7-5 AD2, you could make a case for Braswell.
I think if you played Frisco Braswell a bunch of times, Braswell probably gets the majority of them. I think they're better than Frisco. I mean, Frisco took care of what it needed to take care of. You're the district champion for a reason, but
Braswell's trending, and Frisco kind of peaked and then kind of stumbled a little bit against Denison, and then just kind of, now they're back and forth. They were struggling in the first quarter against Lovejoy. I don't know. Braswell's season's going to come to an end in the third round, which would be a great thing because they'd have to play Aledo. They're not trending upwards enough to beat Aledo. No, not even Reedy last year was good enough to beat Aledo, and that Reedy team was so good. Actually, that was the best team in Frisco last year, better than Lone Star. Man, they were so good, but it all goes through Aledo, man.
Yeah, as is usually the case at this time of year. Let's see, so that's a look at kind of where things are at in 5A Division II. We can quickly touch on our 3 4A postseason-bound programs. As per usual, Argyle is entering the postseason with very, very lofty expectations as they are undefeated and have looked every bit the part. They're in the same district as that loaded district with them and Melissa and Salina and whatnot. So but Argyle gets its thing going against Carter. They're again in that Region 2. You're kind of looking at that a potential, what would it be? I guess a 4th round matchup or whatever against against La Vega or whoever, but or Salina. I don't know, Brian. Like with the Bobcats, I mean, they draw Ranchview, and then if they beat them, then they're probably playing La Vega, number 3 in the state. So, nevertheless, what's the vibe emanating out of Salina right now?
Look what Salina did last year. They limped into the playoffs. They were so down last year, and then they obviously win that first round. I believe it was Wilmer Hutchins, and then they go upset Stephenville. Stephenville was so good last year. They were almost up there par with Argyle, La Vega type level. And they go beat them second round, and they go win the third round. Then they go face Argyle in the third round, and they had a chance to beat them. Argyle scores the game-winning touchdown with like 20 seconds left, obviously. But it's just something about the playoffs with Salina, and they call it Salina time.
Salina time.
And I love that. I've met with them the last 2 years about Salina. It really is,
like
man.
Dame Lillard.
It really is Salina time, and there was all that trash talking going on with them and Argyle, and with a story I wrote a preview last year. It got a lot of rumblings from some quotes that were used.
Are you providing bulletin board material?
I think so, because it was getting around on Twitter.
Salina called its shot and almost did it, man.
Step and all those guys were all getting a hold of it, and man, they should have beat Argyle. But anyways, they're going to take care of business against Ranchview, and they're going to play La Vega in that second round. Don't be surprised if they did look big in the game. Just saying.
You didn't have an orange sweater,
I need
bro.
to just get a full Salina jumpsuit.
And then you have Sunnyvale over in the 4A Division II bracket. Sunnyvale, which comes in state ranked, they're number 7 over in 4A Division II after their second straight unbeaten regular season. So shout out to Trip Makeda and Noah McDill and those guys for continuing to hold it down over in 4A D2. Only problem is that their region is absolutely loaded. Of the top 10 teams in 4A Division II, 4 of them reside in Region II alongside Sunnyvale. They start off against Pittsburgh, but then you're looking potentially ahead if they're able to get on a roll. They could see number 1 ranked Pleasant Grove in the third round,
Texarkana.
And then potentially a 4th round meeting with either Gilmer, who's Gilmer's always rolling this time of year, and then Connolly, who's number 2 in the state. So it's again, it's odds are it's probably going to end for them in the 3rd round. You seem to put the smart money on that, but nevertheless a strong year for Sunnyvale nonetheless. And we'll see what it all means for them. We'll see what it all means for all these teams as the football playoffs get rolling on Thursday. We're finally here, gentlemen. So we will see what what happens for our local programs in the weeks to come. Who's able to make a run? If we're able to get any state championships out of our coverage area, that'll do it for this episode of the Star Local Media High School Sports Podcast. Obviously, of these high-profile matchups that we talked about, we have 5 that are up for Game of the Week. You can go to our website at starlocalmedia.com to vote on that, and we'll be back on Thursday to break down that matchup and some of the other marquee ones that are on the docket. Folks, you keep enjoying your week, and we will talk to y'all later.